To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to the Talk About the Magic podcast, where you'll find inspiration and encouragement tied together with the magic of Disney. Now, here's your host, Joseph Ballesteros.
What is going on, Magicteers? I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday so far, or whatever day you're listening to this episode. I'm really excited to have you download this show and give me your precious time. It's something I do not take for granted, and I hope that this episode will bring you some form of encouragement or inspiration. It's been a pretty exciting week for me personally, and that's because about a week and a half, or maybe a week, something like that, I think it was a week ago, some pretty exciting things were happening, basically, with a lot of the Disney friends that I have made along the past 2 years here on the show. People like Serena from Living by Disney, Dominica from But First Disney, Corinne from Disney Lifestylers. I mean, just and so many other, John Panda from Big Fat Panda. Just a lot of things happening. And they didn't want to say anything. It was a big old kind of deal. You signed up on the email so you would get notified as soon as they were going to release their plans. And I was so excited. So today, or yesterday, I should say, not today because today's Sunday, but yesterday, was the opening. Like, it was the official announcement of what they were doing. And I got to say, I did not expect it at all. I was beyond surprised, and I think you guys will be very excited to go check it out. So I'm going to get into some more detail about that in a little bit. But the reason why I bring it up is because I already had an idea of what I wanted to talk about for today's show. And when this happened, it just went hand in hand. It was just so perfect that I just said, okay, I got to mention this. And so, it's something, like I said, I'm really excited, not just because they're friends of mine, but because what they're doing is exactly what I was about to talk about. And I think it just is another proving point of what happens when you really kind of set your mind to something and move toward it. And I eventually I hope to have Serena and Corinne back on to kind of talk about it. But in the meantime, today's show was kind of going to focus upon taking action on ideas. So this is something that I think, especially, like I said, the beauty of it is everybody gets ideas. I'm not saying this is something has to be like a walking away moment from your 9 to 5 or anything like that. But I just mean an idea that you might have. And it could be, like I said, toward weight loss. It could be toward, doing a better job at your work, maybe some better, eating habits, better communication skills, like whatever it is. There's ideas that you get, and almost immediately, as soon as you get those ideas, there's always going to be something of why you can't or why you shouldn't right now. And, there's something out there, that's, people, so many different people have said it, but it's, power of words, belief boards, manifestation, like all these different things. And I'm not bringing it up whether that's true or not, or whether you believe in it or not, but I am going to tell you my personal experience with these kind of things, and probably yours too, because it's with most people that I've asked. And it's really this: when you have such a good idea and you don't do anything about it, there is someone else out in the world who eventually ends up doing it. And so to me, this kind of just spoke volumes, because with what happened, with the friends here, because I personally have had kind of the same idea. I remember bringing it up to Lou a while back, almost a year ago, just bringing it up as an idea, just throwing it out there, and never really thinking that it was possible, kind of just like whatever, kind of brush it under the rug. And then this happened, and it just blew me away, because I said, this is incredible. This is now, to their credit, it's way more than I ever would have imagined. It's way more than I actually had put into my own thought, but it just was kind of going back into proving that these ideas you have, sometimes it's something you want to run with and go with, and don't delay to at least try. And so I challenge you to look at your own life and think about those times when you've said, you know what, it would be really cool if there was this device that would let you play your music and talk on the phone. You know what I mean? And then, a year later, the iPhone comes out. But I'm not saying you've had that powerful an idea, but, let's think about it. You say, man, you know what? I think if I was just to eat, more salads and work out more, I'd lose weight. That's an idea that you choose not to go with and somebody else does, a friend of yours at work maybe, and all of a sudden a year goes by, you see that they've lost 40, 50 pounds and you're still stuck at where you're at and not where you want to be. And that's the same thing. And that's what I mean as far as taking action on an idea. So for me personally, this is huge because I don't ever do that. I really don't. And it's terrible for me to say. I'm not saying it like, so I can get a pat on the back. It's a bad habit that I would, get some kind of weird thoughts or an idea, and I would just think about it like for maybe 30 minutes. And I, of course, mention it to my wife or someone like, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And then it never, I just stop. And then all of a sudden, like I said, something comes up and, oh my gosh, that was my idea. And they're doing it. And so it's tough for me, but I'm learning to at least make motions. If it's an idea that I really think, has some success with that, or at least an idea that I really want to entertain, so here's another great example as to what I mean. If I, for instance, I love Disney. So if I think of an idea that's going to make me, involved with Disney somehow, maybe make the community stronger with Disney, get more friends with Disney, stuff like that, that's an idea I want to take action. I personally am not a fan of horror films, like at all. If I get an idea about, somehow doing some type of horror thing, whatever, I probably won't entertain that idea, and I actually probably would be okay with it. Now, if it's an idea I really felt was strong and had some type of, power behind it, I might try to reach out to maybe some friends who are into that and let them know, maybe work something out that way. But honestly, though, that kind of idea would be something that I'd probably just slip by. And so what I'm trying to tell you is, I'm not saying you have to take action on every single crazy idea that comes to your head, because we're going to get crazy ideas, and not like crazy in the sense of like Walt. Everybody thought Walt was crazy, but he did it. No, I mean like legit crazy. Like, let's put a electricity wire in water, see what happens. Like, no, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. That's a crazy idea. So that's what I mean when I say, though, when you find an idea that you're willing to invest your time and energy with, but for some reason you just kind of feel like, it's not right now. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not the right person for it. I don't think. That's the problem, right? That's when that's when it becomes an issue that you see someone else taking action and you regret never following your own ideas and dreams. So, like I said, for me personally, that was a big deal. I struggle with that, with being able to really pursue something that I'm willing to spend my time on. And so a couple reasons why this week was exciting was, number one, because I saw my friends doing this, and I just got so pumped and motivated because I said, you know what? They, again, are showing that even though it's difficult and even though it will take time, because they started when they did, look at where they're at now. The project that they started in, it didn't start last month. They've been working on this for at least like mathematically, if I'm calculating everything correctly, at least minimum 6 months, maybe more. And so I'm going to talk, hopefully with them to get more details. But, 6 months ago, if they chose to ignore this idea, or whenever they got the idea and never take action, where would it be now? You know what I mean? It'd still be in that beginning process. And that's why it's so important to take action. So for me personally, I've been working on my music, for the past 20 something years. I literally started when I was like 10 years old, as far as like learning to play guitar and stuff. I used to rap. Listen, don't get it twisted. When it comes to the flow, ain't no better place to go than me. And that's for sure. Okay, that was just terrible, but that was off the cuff, so give me a break. Anyway, so I started rapping when I was like 5 years old. I have a picture at my grandma's house. My uncle, he did sound and stuff, so he had, he was a musician. He's a musician himself. He set up, whenever we'd have our family gatherings, he'd take his keyboard and speakers and he'd play some music. We're a Hispanic family, so we got down. So he'd play some music, and we'd just enjoy ourselves. And I remember nothing, but I see the pictures. But I remember what rap it was that I did. But I'm wearing my overalls on the picture. I'm wearing overalls and a shirt. And I am, no doubt, I'll probably put it on this post. I'm going to find the picture and I'll put it on this post. So you can go to this podcast post, and you'll see the image of me, which is I'm basically doing my hip hop, like, the arms crossed, like straight up. Don't mess with me. I'm straight up hip hop, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I rapped a Stephen Wiley song. If you don't know who Stephen Wiley is, don't worry. You're probably, if you do know who Stephen Wiley is, I say, whoa, hit me up. We got to be friends. Because that was a rarity back in the day. He was a Christian rapper, and he was doing big things. But I think he had like one hit song, and then it was disappeared. Anyway, I digress. So my point is, I started rapping when I was that young. I got into guitar, and I started wanting to play music. And, I got into bands. We played, here in Texas, we played at a place called, the White Rabbit, which is a really, really popular place here where I'm at. We played in Dallas, and we played, with bands that eventually got signed. And that's what was crazy, because these guys were my friends, and I would talk with them, and I would see them, and, we kind of were all in the same thing, but they were just grinding a little harder. They were willing to put in that extra work into that idea they had. And, I fizzled out. I said, hey, I got a pretty girlfriend. I'm just going to relax and stop trying to go play places because I want to be with my girlfriend. And not to say that's not what they did too, but they technically didn't, because they kept on going. They kept on touring, and eventually got signed. It was really cool because I think it was the college. It was a college. I'm not really into college football, so I was gonna say Super Bowl, but it's like, when the March Madness, and they have that, I don't know if it's Rose Bowl, one of those things. About 2 years ago when their album had come out, and it was cool because they were actually on there performing. So to see that was really awesome. But it kind of would bring this little regret in my mind, where I'd say, like, what if I hadn't quit and trying? What if who knows where I'd be? Because, and I don't mean to sound conceited in any way, but I worked hard at it, and I was confident at what I was able to do. I was confident on how I played. I was confident how I sang. I was confident on how I would write my music and write the lyrics. And of course, hearing it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's terrible. But the point is, you keep writing, you get better, to keep, playing, to get better and better and better. So I was confident in what I was doing. And I knew that I was going to be able to get where I wanted to be. And I, let that dream go. And that's something that I've admitted. Before I used to be like, oh well, not everybody's lucky enough to get signed, and oh well, to get signed, it's really tough nowadays. Honestly, that's just not the case. From what I've seen from friends who've gotten signed, from friends who are successful, just not even being signed but just playing music, it really is about the work and the willingness and the patience. But the point is, they never stopped going toward that idea and goal, and eventually they got picked up. So, for me, it was something I had to admit to myself, to say, you blew it. You blew that opportunity of time that you had when you had no kids, you had no responsibilities of house payment or a car payment. You were just able to kind of wing it because you were young, and you could play this kind of game of, I'm going to just go and try, and I don't care if I sleep in a van. Who cares? I don't care if I'm just eating peanuts and beef jerky for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to go play in New York. I'm going to play in LA. I'm going to play everywhere. And I understand that. And of course, I have two options, right? Quit and go home, or kind of reassess and say, okay, let's pivot. We still have our main goal, which was what? Well, my love for music. It's what I do. It's something that I never stopped doing. Nobody has heard so many of the songs that I've recorded and done, because honestly, I just don't share it. But I can't stop doing it. If you come into my room right now, you're going to see two KRK Rocket 5 monitors. You're going to see a old 1960 Ibanez brown Maplewood style guitar. You're going to see my Taylor acoustic guitar. You're going to see my computer that I've had, mastering software in. And you're going to see my microphone, which is a blue. You probably actually have seen this live, but it's a blue baby bottle, which is something that I couldn't afford the expensive brand. So I bought the next best thing from Blue, which was this version. And you're going to see in my room a bunch of bed foam mats that I've put up to silence a lot of the, echo and ambience of the room, in the sense of, so it doesn't cause any kind of, that weird, if you're into music and recording stuff, you know what I'm talking about, but that weird kind of echo that happens in rooms, because I couldn't afford at the time to buy, studio phone things. Basically, it's the same thing. So that's what you're going to see, because that's never left me. And, I've realized over this past 2 years of doing this show and being able to talk with so many amazing people and seeing them do things, right? Like, you look at Lou, he started off as a podcaster and now we see him as a speaker. He just started his own workshop course in Momentum that happens every year. We look at, Matt and Cherry from Yoho Disney. They started off with just a family who loved Disney. They did some YouTube videos, but now they have their own company with Lillian and Company. And now we look at this new project, which I'm excited to announce, from my fellow friends of Corinne and all of these other awesome people like Serena and Dominica and Panda and everybody else, releasing this disflix.com and seeing how they started off and to where they are now. And I just, it's like a big kick in my butt. It's painful. And not because I don't like to see them succeed, but because I say, oh my gosh, what have you been doing? They are out there going after their ideas. They are out there going after their goals. And no matter what hiccups come in the way, no matter what things that are, telling them they can't, or no matter what people are saying that's ridiculous, it's a stupid idea, why would you even think about doing that? They keep doing it. And look what happens. They're there. They're doing it now. Where are you at? Like, that's what it happens. That's what happens to me. Like, it hits me and I say, oh my gosh. And so I'm excited because I really grinded this past 2.5 weeks. I wasn't as active on social media. Of course, I still post my Instagram because that's my Disney fix, my once a day Disney pick there. But, I wasn't really active on social media. I kind of took a break from emails, doing, the weekly mail from Talk About the Magic, because I really wanted to do this. I wanted to focus on my idea that I had. And that idea is music. It always is, and I think it always was, and I think it always will be. This podcast has helped me out so much by being able to talk with so many awesome people. And not just that, but getting feedback from you guys, telling me how much the interviews have meant to you. And like I said, we're not getting rid of the interviews. I got some, all scheduled up, so we'll definitely be having some more interviews soon. But it's this show and the people I've talked to and your feedback that has really kind of taught me to say, stop. Quit making your excuses. You feel like you're doing good because you're doing little busy work, but you're still not doing what you have always had a passion to do. I love doing the podcast, and it has created a whole new passion in me. And that passion and that joy is to bring you motivation, inspiration. When I know that you guys are getting motivated by the content I'm putting out, it beyond belief makes me happy. It is truly, truly a wonderful thing, and I love it. And it's a new passion that I don't ever want to get rid of, and that's why I say the Sunday show will stay the same, because it's something that I'm addicted to it. But this other passion has been in me for years. It's never gone away. And I always joke with my wife. I always say, listen, music came first. I love my wife, but music came first. Now, don't send me hate mail. It's just a joke. But my point is, it's been there, and it's something that I have ignored to really take a grind to and say, let's make this happen. And now with the way technology is, there's no excuse. I mean, like I said, everything that I just told you, I didn't buy it just because it looked pretty. I bought it because it was giving me the ability to create professional sounding audio here and not be concerned that, I got to go pay, $500 and book 7 hours of studio time because I got to go record. No, the whole reason why I bought all this stuff is because it gives me the ability to record from my home. Yet I wasn't doing it justice. So like I said, got to the grind. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And this is who I am. I started overthinking things a lot, which is something I think a lot of us do, especially when it comes to the ideas. Because I started, like I said, you want to get research, you want to learn, and so I'm listening to all these, key speakers, key people who are, media marketing people, all that kind of stuff, and they tell me you want to separate. People who are into Disney aren't going to be into music, and people who are into your music aren't going to be into Disney. And while that's technically true to an extent, I've kind of stopped that mentality because it was really burning me out. And I said, you know what? I don't care if people are not into Disney and are into my music, or if people are into my music and are not into Disney. I want people to be into me. And what that means is I want them to like me because of who I am. I'm a dad. I love Disney. I love music. I love doing podcasts. I love talking. I love making friends. I love being able to share ideas with other people. Like, that's who I am. And those are the people that I want to interact with me. And I feel like the people who are able to interact with me and who enjoy who I am, they're going to be into. I'm not saying they're going to like the music and buy, $1,000 of music. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're going to be into the idea of, yeah, that guy, he's into Disney. I love Disney. He also plays music. I gotta give him props. He plays music too. Yeah, he has a lot of, albums out there that he puts out, and vice versa. Oh my gosh, this guy's music, it's so great. I like him. He does some Disney podcasts too, but you know what? I don't even listen to podcasts. I just love the music. But that's because they recognize and they can, respect who I am as a person. And I think that's more important. And so I kind of took off the idea of, okay, I'm going to be a musician here. And then for these people, I'm going to be Disney. And then for these people, I'm going to be this person, which is what they're really basically trying to teach you. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be me. So if you go to talkaboutthemagic.com/free song, you're going to see a simple page with a video explaining what you're able to do. And all you got to do basically is tell me your email of where to send the song. Whatever email it is, even if it's an email that you already signed up with, Talk About the Magic, that's fine. You don't have to create a new one or anything like that. After that, you'll get taken to a thank you page, and you'll see another video kind of explaining who I am, of course. And you'll see there the song. If you click the download, which it'll be a big button, if you're on your phone, it'll take you to a new tab and it'll start playing the song. But in order to actually download the song, to be able to transfer it to different phones or computers, whatever it is, that's going to be on a computer. You want to do that from a computer. But the reason why, because I have another website, eliseomusic.com or .net, I don't remember. It's been a while. And the reason why is because Eliseo was going to be my music persona. So even if you look at this song, the song is called Never Lose My Heart. If you look at the cover, you'll see on the very bottom Eliseo on there. But that's because when I wrote it and when I recorded it, and when I was putting it out, I was going under the idea that I'm going to be called Eliseo. And honestly, it is my name, guys. It's not like I'm just making up a fake name. It is my name. It's Joseph Eliseo Ballesteros. And I might still continue calling the music there Eliseo, just to kind of give you the idea that every time you see that word Eliseo, I'm talking about music. But, the reason why I put it on Talk About the Magic and I didn't, share it onto another website is because this is who I am. If you go to that page, you're going to see a video of me telling you, hey guys, I also do a podcast where I shared inspiration. I tie it with the magic of Disney. Because that's who I am. You know what I mean? That's who I am. And it's a weird idea. It's a crazy idea. A guy who sings music, who does music, but also loves Disney. Yeah, and my music isn't, it would make sense maybe if I was doing orchestra style music or DJ, whatever. That's not the kind of music I play. And so I think when you listen, you might be surprised as to maybe what you were expecting compared to what you hear. But I still hope you guys would enjoy it. So please go check that out. And of course I have that link there. But, it goes back to the idea of I need to take action. And my goal, my dream was always to be able to just do my music and be able to make a living. And you know what's scary about saying something like that? At least for me personally. And I don't know how you are. I think everybody is different. As far as their character. For me, my character is I grew up in a very, I don't want to say that. I don't blame the way I grew up, actually. I think it's just how we are. But my character is kind of shy. It's even though I'm doing a podcast and I sing, other than that, I'm very introvert. And so when I say something like that, I want to live off my music. I want to make a living off just playing music. To me, it always makes me feel like, because it makes me think I'm sounding conceited, or I'm sounding egotistical, or I'm sounding like, prideful, whatever the word is. And I've had to kind of learn, no, what you're saying is something that you want. It's a crazy idea. It's not a norm, but it's possible because we have tons of musicians out there who are doing that. You've never heard of them. I want you to name me the left clarinet player of the South Carolina orchestra. Like, you know what I mean? You don't know that off the top of your hand. And that doesn't mean they're not successful. That doesn't mean that they're not achieving their goal and their dream. We all have a different idea. So for me, my idea is I want to make a living off my music. And I'm not saying that it has to be because I have to be the next U2. No, I'm saying because I want to be able to share my music with enough people who are into it, that they are willing to invest their, time with me as much as I'm willing to invest my time to create the music for them. And that's including, of course, currency, obviously, as far as, what it is that I get in return. This is what I'm confident in saying I'm good at, because I've done it for years and I'm going to keep getting better. I don't think I'm as good as I could be because I did take breaks. But, there's no reason for you to feel shamed for wanting a return in the investment that you're doing in that crazy idea. So, and I say crazy idea in the most loving way because I go into this next subject and I don't want Serena and Corinne and everyone else involved to think that I'm calling them crazy. But when they did this announcement, like I said, I was completely blown away. Not at all what I expected. It was it's incredible. So I have to share it because I'm very excited to see them doing what they're doing. I'll just make this easy. If you go to DizFlix, now let me just go ahead and bring this up because this is real life, right? They launched this yesterday on Saturday, and good or bad, right? They got to do this, so they launched it, and their site crashed, and it's because there was a lot of people who were interested, which is it's a very frustrating problem to have. Being somebody who does a lot of work on the internet, I understand how frustrating it is for something like that to happen. Even more so when it's something you've been, prepping people for over a week, but it's kind of a wonderful problem to have because basically it was, so much that the servers couldn't control it, couldn't contain it. And so they crashed, but everything is up and running as of now when I'm talking to you. So it should be up when you go. If you go to DizFlix, you'll see kind of a intro video of what to expect, what it is, what the purpose is, the community that you're going to be joining. And I really want them, of course, to come on the show to really get even more details. So I'm not going to go into every single little thing, but it's promising to bring, of course, live streaming videos from Disney. It's going to bring one of a kind style shows regarding, Disney as well. And of course, it's going to be offering to me, which this right here was a game changer for me, where I said like, okay, this I think is what's really going to make people go, okay, I'm listening. It's going to be having classes, online classes with experts, right? People who know what they're talking about when it comes to saving for your trip to Disney. When it comes to understanding how to, get through your vacation in the most sane way possible. And so a lot of awesome stuff is happening there. And when I saw that, like I said, I was just blown away and so excited for all of my friends there who are doing stuff, because I said, this is what it's about. This idea on paper is crazy. It doesn't make sense. And it's pretty much near impossible. But seeing it actually take place, I mean, I can only imagine how they feel, because, it's not me. I didn't do it. But when you actually achieve that crazy idea, I mean, what a feeling. what a confident, knowing feeling that you get to say, oh, thank God I wasn't crazy. It's working. It worked. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Those years, those months, those weeks, those days, whatever time that you put in toward that crazy idea. It's all about that 1 second that finally changes everything because you finally did it. You know, I think about Walt Disney. I think about everything he did, right? We know he wanted to do, you know, his cartoons and his animations. He's very certain on how he wanted things to be done. Tons of money would be used before they even had it. So many times where it felt like it was going to be foreclosed. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse was created because his lovable character Oswald was stolen right under his nose. I mean, then he comes up with this insane idea to build a land. And everyone, like when you read the biographies and stuff like that, everyone, there was nobody who was like, all right, Walt, this sounds great. There was no banks who were running to give him money. Even though he had succeeded, even though he had accomplished so much, this idea was still so crazy because nobody wanted to support him still. It took a lot of, you know, figuring out and a lot of negotiating to get it done. I can only imagine how it felt that day, you know, that last day before opening, everything's closed, nothing's open. But he knows that the next day, Disneyland is open and it's going to change everything. He doesn't know the future. He doesn't know if it's going to succeed. He doesn't know if millions of people are going to show up. All he knows is that this crazy idea that he had in his head is going to come true. And I can only imagine that day, that morning, he wakes up and he's getting ready. They're going to be on TV. And those doors open and those kids and families just start running in. I can only imagine that feeling of accomplishment. That feeling of, thank God I'm not crazy. And that's what it's about. That's really what it's about. I want to encourage you and motivate you and inspire you and just boost you as much as I can to tell you, if you have an idea and it's something that you have the willingness to put in the passion and the time, and you have the willingness to put in the patience and the work toward it, if it's something that you really want to do, if it's something that you really believe strongly in, you deserve it to yourself to try. You deserve it to your family and friends to try, because you deserve to get that feeling of when that crazy idea becomes reality, to say, thank God I'm not crazy. It worked. And that's really what it's about. So guys, please go head over to talkaboutthemagic.com/free song and get the free song there. If you are interested in music. And like I said, hopefully soon I'll have Serena and Corinne, or at least one of them, on to talk more. But I encourage you to go check out disflix.com. It's exciting stuff. I already signed up. I'm a part of the community. April 15th is I believe the actual like opening day where they're going to start their live streaming and everything like that. But you got to sign in now because, of course, early bird always gets the better deal. So go check it out, disflix.com. I'll have a link in the bio as well. So be sure to check that out. I hope you have a wonderful night, day, weekend, whenever you are listening to this. And as always, stay magical.
This was the Talk About the Magic podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay magical.